This is the 5-minute guide to the Tegethoff class battleships of the Austro-Hungarian Navy. The Austro-Hungarian Navy only ever built a single class of dreadnought battleship. The successors to this class were cancelled by the outbreak of the First World War, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire suffered a critical existence failure shortly thereafter. Further, most people would not have expected a largely land-based empire with minimal coastline to have a navy. But in the finest human tradition, their rivals the Italians had a navy, so they had to have a navy as well. The two had met in battle at the start of the Ironclad Age, and there had been a rivalry ever since. Although the first dreadnoughts of their nation, the ships were designed at the time of the second generation of dreadnoughts in the major navies, so they avoided a number of the errors of the first generation. Due to the relatively slow pace and limited size of the shipyards available, the first ship was laid down in 1910 and completed in 1912, just as the last of the four was being started. The ships were called Viribus Unitas, Tegethoff, Prince Eugen, and Szent István. The ships displaced 20,000 tons, and despite steam turbine propulsion they were somewhat slower than average, being capable of about 20 knots at maximum speed. Because they were designed mainly to contest control of the local area against the Italian fleet, they were also relatively short-ranged. Their armor was about average for a battleship of this period with an 11-inch belt thickness, but the underwater protection was not especially good, a fact which would come to haunt them later in their lives. Their main armament was composed of 4 triple turrets, 2 forward and 2 aft, armed with 12-inch guns with the second turrets at each end in super-firing positions. This gave the ships a wide-ranging broadside that was among the heaviest of the second-generation dreadnoughts. Although the Italians had been the first to use a triple turret on their battleships, the Austro-Hungarians were able to match this because their gun manufacturers were already working on a design for Usher. One throwback to older designs was a split secondary battery with 12 heavier 15mm guns in casemate mounts for general use and 18 70mm guns in open mounts for use against destroyers and torpedo boats. A few anti-aircraft guns and 4 torpedo tubes completed the ship's firepower. 3 of the ships were built in Austrian yards, with the last one, the Szent István, being built in a Hungarian yard, which unfortunately had never built anything larger than a destroyer before, which delayed the ship's completion until well into the war. In World War I, the bulk of the ship's activity was restricted to the prolonged staring match with the Italian and Allied fleets, with both sides making limited forays to try and entice the other to battle on their own terms whilst avoiding minefields and the numerous small attack craft present in the confined waters. The Austro-Hungarian fleet also suffered from an increasing lack of coal for fuel. 3 of the ships set out to provide some cover for the German battle cruiser Goeben and the cruiser Breslau early in the war, but did not engage any Allied ships. Shortly after Italy entered the war in 1915, they bombarded the Italian coast and a naval base at Ancona, before heading back to port before the Italian fleet could respond. Finally, in 1918, a new fleet commander decided to attack the Allied blockade at the southeast corner of Italy that was containing the Austro-Hungarian fleet. However, the Szent István and Tegethoff set out late, and in the effort to catch up, the Szent István overheated its engines and had to slow down. Whilst raising steam to increase speed again, the large clouds of smoke attracted the attention of 2 Italian torpedo boats. Whilst one of them suffered numerous malfunctions that prevented a successful launch, the other hit the Szent István with a pair of torpedoes. Due to the inadequate underwater protection, the ship was unable to keep up with the flooding or reach the coast, sinking in just over 3 hours and becoming one of 2 battleships sinking at sea ever captured on film. Due to their cover being blown, the other ships returned to port. Finally, in 1918, the Viribus Unitas was destroyed in harbor by Italian special forces using an early form of manned torpedo. Again, the poor underwater protection meant a single mine sent the ship to the bottom in 15 minutes. The Tegethoff was taken by the Italians and used in a film about the sinking of her sister ship during the war, before being broken up after the Washington Naval Treaty. The Prince Eugen was taken over by France, who disarmed it and used it in bombing attack testing before finally taking it out into the Atlantic and using it as a target for their own battleship's firepower, where it eventually sank. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a favorite ship or other comment, let us know below.